Hello, students. So it's been some time since I recorded a video to share my thoughts. So yeah, it's been a busy time. I think for the past week, a couple of things is happening. Right, we have the school prize giving ceremony. We also have an event where our secondary school students actually have an exchange with a couple of primary schools where we share our experiences in trying to advocate for good cyber wellness practices as well as national school games, right? So inter-school sports competition is going on. So I'm actually taking care of my school's football team, as so there's lots of administrative thing to prepare for the competition. So it's been a very tight schedule. Yeah, that well, making excuses, right? I mean, I do enjoy making video, but yeah, can be quite fatigued and quite tiring. But it's enjoyable work. So I mean, I'm enjoying my work. I do love football, right? And I also recognize that cyber wellness is a very um, important aspect of our education nowadays, especially with the new generation being exposed to so much social media. And of course, prize giving ceremony is something that is worth celebrating. It's the anniversary of the school, as well as to affirm and encourage students who have done well. So they are all very meaningful work, despite being very tired, right? But today, what I would like to talk about is this, right? So last week, uh, in one of my lessons, so a student actually mentioned that they find learning mathematics quite doesn't they don't see the relevancy to their life. And I don't blame them because it is not easy to recognize what some of the things you're learning in mathematics are for in daily life, right? So it gets frustrating sometimes because human nature, we want to learn things that we can use and apply straight away. Humans are wired that way. So it's quite natural to feel a bit of frustration when things that you learn, especially when it's difficult and you don't see how you're going to use it. So I did some thinking, and I remembered an essay that I wrote many years ago when I was actually studying for my master's course. And it actually examines the curriculum that we have in our schools, right? Namely, we have our languages, of course, mathematics, the sciences, as well as the humanities subject. So my argument is that it's all down to reasoning. You see, if we talk about being relevant about the things that we study, I mean, it's secondary school, right? So secondary school to a working adult is quite clear. We are just building foundation, but for someone that's currently in it, a secondary school student, I can see why it doesn't apply directly to their life because they haven't um, experienced more advanced stuff. So they can't feel the foundation needed to learn those advanced stuff. But even at university, I always remember I studied computer engineering in the university, and there's some programming. So for example, I when my first year, freshman year, I was studying C programming. An ancient relic for the programmers out there, you will know what I'm talking about. C programming. All right, so I learned that in my freshman year, but by the time I'm in the third year of the university, nobody in the industry is using C anymore. So they have moved on to C++, C Sharp, Java, and even these languages that I learned in my final year in the university. By the time I graduate, okay, right now people have moved on to other languages. No, I think right now people are dealing with Python, but a few years later, it's nobody use Python. Maybe I don't know what's the next development. So things change very quickly. Even at the university level, where you're preparing for the workplace, things change. So all the things that you learn in secondary school is even worse, right? Compared to things you learn in the university. how can you ever use the thing that you learn right now in the future? You won't even know what your future is like. It's quite many years away. So, of course, we try to make it as relevant as possible because there are benefits to it. Humans, we are wired to want to learn things that's relevant, but sometimes it's not possible. So there must be some other reason why the curriculum is designed in such a way, right? And to me, it all boils down to reasoning. Why I say this? What exactly is mathematics, right? Mathematics, at its core, we say is axiomatic studies. So we started with something called axiom, some fact that is undisputed, is something that's accepted to be truth. And from that truth, we start to derive other truth and start to build on it, right? And we start to deduce other facts. So just to give something very, very simple, for example, a square, right? We know that a square, the corners of the square, they are right angles, so all 90 degrees, right? And when we stack squares together, we get rectangles. And we also, because of the nature of the square, we know that the corners of the square must be right angle. So with that, we deduce the fact that rectangles, because it's made out of squares, the corners are also right angles. So we build new knowledge from existing knowledge. So this is just a very simple example. Of course, you look at the best syllabus, there's so many of this if you investigate it a little bit deeper. So we start with some undisputable fact and we start building the knowledge from there. And it just get larger and larger, and there's so many things to look at eventually, right? So we call this deduction. So it's deductive reasoning, right? But the opposite direction is also true. Opposite direction is instead of having something that's true and trying to find many examples of things that obeys and adhere to this truth and building knowledge, we could also build knowledge and reasoning by seeing many examples of something and find the similarity, and we categorize it, and then after we come to a conclusion. And this is called inductive reasoning, and we see that in the sciences, right? So when you conduct a science experiment, for example, you want to hang a weight on a spring and see how much the spring actually it lengthens with the weight, right? Gravity. So you put many different weights and you get many different lengths that the spring actually stretches. So you collect all this data, and then after that we try to find pattern to all this data. So with all the different examples, we try to figure out what is the universal truth that allows such a phenomenon to be observed. So from examples to the truth, or examples to the fact, we call this inductive, and this is found in all the sciences, whether is it physics or chemistry or biology. And maths is the other way around. Maths, we started with an undisputable truth, and then from there we derive many other new knowledge. So we call this deductive. Then we have the humanities. The humanities is a bit more difficult to quantify in this manner, right? So we cannot just say that something happens in the past in this way and the same thing will happen again, because the number of factors that will influence the outcome of any social situation is a lot more, right? Whether is it a geographic situation, or when you study history, political history, social sciences, population changes, and all these things. Too many factors, many things can change. So you cannot use inductive or deductive perfectly. And in this kind of situation, what the scholars do is we can only understand it and analyze it using analogies, right? So this is where we look at case studies. So when you build up all your case studies, although it's not you will not get a perfect scenario, but with enough case studies of similar situation, we can have a confident projection of what will happen if similar things were to occur again, right? So the study of the various case studies to analyze the factors that in each of these case studies, and try to see some alignment, so that we can have some kind of prediction of what will happen if similar case happens again. So this way of logic reasoning can be found in most of the humanities subjects, right? Whether you study history, looking at situation where all the wars in the past, most of the time the common people suffer, right? Every single war, every case study you see the common people suffer. A small minority of people may benefit from the war, people who may be in the business of building weapons and so on and so forth. I don't know. It's not my area of expertise, right? I'm a math teacher. So that one is another form of reasoning. So different types of reasoning, different ways to reason out our thoughts and draw conclusion, right? Whether is it deductive, inductive, or analogy, right? Analogical reasoning. So because of that, we study a broad spectrum of subjects. We study the math, we study the sciences, we study the social sciences or humanities, right? And also languages. Languages also help us in many aspects, but the main function of language, of course, is to facilitate communication and the appreciation of the arts. So with this, we build up a curriculum for the average secondary school students, and it really trained us to reason things out, to learn. So in a nutshell, truly many things that you learn, even in other subjects that is not mathematics, there are many facts that you learn, many content that you learn, may not be directly relevant to your life right now. This is a fact, because we are building foundations right now. And what is this foundation? This foundation is to learn how to learn, right? How do we learn through inductive reasoning? How do we learn through deductive reasoning? And how do we learn through case studies? Different ways of learning. And with this broad base, right, in the future, when you need to learn something that is really current, and you need to, depending on the nature of the things that you need to study, right, whether is it mathematical in nature or scientific in nature, engineering in nature, or even the arts, right, there even reading about the current affairs and really treating each current affairs news as a case study. You build knowledge, you build the capacity to reason things out on your own. And all this comes from the foundation that you're building right now, learning how to learn for different types of knowledge. Yeah, so that is more or less the gist of the essay I wrote, and I think I still stand by the message that is in this essay. I still believe that this is true, and why our curriculum is designed in such a way. So don't feel frustrated just because you don't understand right now how this thing is relevant to you. Really experience it fully, and recognize that we are really learning how to learn properly, and you will be learning for the rest of your life. I mean, I've just shared before that not just older people teaching younger people new knowledge. Younger people are also teaching older people all the time, and knowledge doesn't flow in one direction. It flows in all kinds of ways, and even at an advanced age, there are still things to learn. Maybe different things to learn, but there are things to learn. And if we lose that capacity and lose that understanding of how to learn, then yeah, your life will become miserable. Yeah. Okay, so keep learning, do your best, and don't feel frustrated that you don't see the relevancy. Okay, stay focused, understand that you're trying to just build up your capacity to learn all the different types of logic, so that you can be a more rounded person in the future. Okay, yeah, have a nice day.